Have you ever been paid back? And I don't mean the bad kind of payback. I mean the good kind of payback. The kind of payback where you go and you buy somebody their Taco Bell. Or not Taco Bell. I understand. Some of you don't like Taco Bell. And they say, hey, don't worry about it. I'll pay you back. And then they do pay you back. And they actually give you a few more dollars than what you had used to pay for them. That's the good kind of payback, the good kind of feeling that you get inside when someone recognizes your good efforts and pay you back. But then there's the bad kind of payback, the kind of payback that you know you probably shouldn't do, but feels so very good. This is the kind of payback where they say that they're going to pay you back, but then they never do, and you're kind of salty about that and want to get back at them. Or they cheat off of your test in class and you get in trouble because your homework looks exactly like that guy's. Or they slander you on social media. Or they steal your girlfriend. Or they steal your boyfriend. Or they steal your dog. Not entirely sure if any of you have ever had that happen. It's in that moment that we have the option. Do I pursue payback or do I just let it go? When we have the option of pursuing payback, we don't actually know what to do too often in that moment because we don't know if it's actually right or not. Is pursuing payback justice, or is it really just revenge and we're calling it justice because we want to feel good about what we're doing? We've been in a series called What to Do When You Don't Know What to Do, and we've been looking at the life of Joseph because he's gone through a lot of stuff where he didn't know what to do in the moment. Where we last left Joseph, he was at the right hand of the king of Pharaoh, and there was a famine coming. So things have turned out pretty well for Joseph, even though he was sold into slavery by his brothers. And guess who comes to Egypt looking for food during this time? You're right, Joseph's brothers. They find each other in Egypt, and Joseph recognizes them, but they don't recognize Joseph. You have to understand during this time, the Jewish people and Egyptian people looked very different. Plus, they hadn't seen each other in a long time. So it makes sense that they wouldn't recognize each other. Plus, Joseph's probably speaking Egyptian, so that's probably confusing for them. It's in this moment that Joseph decides now is a very good opportunity to put his brothers through a wonderful series of pranks. First, he scares their pants off by accusing them of being spies. Now imagine that a government official comes to you in America and accuses you of being a spy. I personally would want to soil my underwear. As they're trying to defend themselves, they tell Joseph their entire life story, trying to prove that they are not spies. In the process, they mention that they have a younger brother, Benjamin. Now that's Joseph's direct brother. Joseph wants to see his brother, so he says, hey, in order for you to prove that you're not spies, how about the next time you show up, you bring Benjamin along? They agree to it, and they are sent on their way. Along the way, they start panicking more because they look in their luggage and find the money that they thought that they had used for paying for the food still in their bags. That really freaks them out. What's better is that the money is actually planted by Joseph, and he's doing it just to mess with them. They get back home and say, hey, Dad, some stuff happened. We need to bring Benjamin along next time if we're ever going to get fed again. Jacob doesn't really like that idea since they already lost the last son. He doesn't really want to lose them again. But Judah, the guy who suggested selling Joseph into slavery the last time, is able to convince Jacob. So you know he's got a great track record with kids. They bring Benjamin along, and when they get there, they apologize profusely about the misunderstanding about the money, and then Joseph's guys are like, nah, don't worry about it. We already got your money. It must have come from somewhere else. Again, totally not true. So they think that they're totally good. They hang out with Joseph for a while. They actually eat at his house. Benjamin gets a lot of food because he's the youngest brother, and Joseph really likes him. And then they go on their way, totally at peace. And then they're overtaken by a task force sent by Joseph. They show up and they're like, hey, y'all stole a silver chalice. Yeah, they had chalices back then, I guess. I mean, wouldn't they? Chalice. Did they even have... Did everybody have chalices and then like cups were in common? They're like, nah, that definitely wouldn't have happened with this bunch of brothers. We've never done anything illegal like that. They say, tell you what, if you find the silver chalice here, then bad stuff's going to happen to us. You can punish us any way that you want. And then they find the silver chalice in Benjamin's bag. So they go back to Joseph's house, really expecting bad things to happen. They're like, hey, I guess we're going to be enslaved to you from now on. And then Joseph's really chill about it. He's like, no, that's fine. Only Benjamin, because he was the one that stole the cup. By the way, Joseph put the cup in Benjamin's bag. He's like, yeah, just go home, you guys. It's just Benjamin that gets punished. He'll be my slave for life. It's at this moment that Judah does something unexpected. Remember that this is the guy who sold Joseph into slavery, basically, the last time. This is what he says. I became a pledge of safety for this boy to my father, saying, if I don't bring him back to you, then I will bear the blame before you all my life. So please let me remain instead of the boy as a slave to you, and let the boy go back with his brothers. It's in this moment that Judah decides to substitute himself for Benjamin. He takes the place of Benjamin in the punishment that he deserves in order that Benjamin might go back and his dad will be happy. And it's also in this moment that Joseph breaks down. He's no longer able to keep up any pranks or charades, and he reveals himself to be Joseph, the brother that they had sold into slavery. You see, some of you might have been thinking this entire time that Joseph was playing pranks on his brothers in order to pay them back, but it's actually been to bring them to this moment of reconciliation. They hear that this is Joseph, their brother, and they are kind of concerned because they're thinking that he has been out to pay them back this entire time. But this is what Joseph says. I am your brother, Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. And now don't be distressed or angry with yourselves because you sold me here. For God sent me before you to preserve life. Joseph has been doing all of this to pursue peace and reconciliation with his brothers. Now, he had the option of really pursuing payback. I mean, he could have had Judah and his entire family killed, but he doesn't. So we could say at this moment, well, we should pursue peace because Joseph pursues peace. But there's something bigger going on here. We saw that our suffering is a part of a bigger story in the lesson in the link below. But knowing that our suffering is a part of a bigger story actually frees us up to pursue peace when God calls us to trust and obey him and pursue peace. Let's take a second and think about what would happen if Joseph decided to pursue payback and kill off Judah and his entire family. If that had happened, then we wouldn't be sitting here talking today. You see, Judah isn't just a traitor before, but he is somebody at this point who is willing to substitute himself in somebody else's place so that they might live. And that sounds a lot like his descendant, Jesus. So Joseph's tiny little obedience in pursuing peace with his brothers and trusting God for the results actually means that the entire world is saved. You and I are sitting here today talking about this because Joseph pursued peace. Imagine what can happen in your life when you trust God and pursue peace. Because when we don't know what to do, when we want to pay people back, whether it's family members, friends, acquaintances, entire systems, when we pursue peace, God does very big things. Now, we might not see it right now, but we might see it someday. And we might just see it as we sit at the right hand of the Father. After we have experienced our suffering, unfair treatment, we go down into prison, we go down into death. We will be exalted, like Joseph was, like Jesus was, to the right hand of the King. And in that moment, we might see what our tiny act of obedience in pursuing peace did did for ourselves, did for the name and glory of God, and did for others later on. So when you don't know what to do, pursue peace rather than payback. Thanks, guys. Have a great week.